Welcome to Family Law Matters, the podcast presented by The Manely Firm. Visit www.allfamilylaw.com or call 866-687-8561 to learn more. And now, here's your host.
Hey, welcome in. Bill King here with the Manely Firm, and I am glad to have you all back for another edition of our podcast. And welcome to 2025. Wow. I mean, it's almost the end of 2025, isn't it? I mean, it's flying by. I mean, seriously, it's almost the end of January. It's flying by, yes, right? I mean, I looked up and I was like, it's almost the end of January. I mean, that's, so. But yeah, welcome to 2025. We're glad to have you with us. Again, I'm joined by a number of my amazing colleagues, and I'll let them go around and introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into a few things about what the clients face in the new year, some resolutions, transformations, things like that. But
hello, everybody. I'm Courtney Bernard-rance. I am the managing attorney of our Cumming office.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cherish De La Cruz. I am the managing attorney for estate planning and probate.
Hello, everybody. I am Emily McClarty. I am an associate attorney out of our Marietta and Forsyth offices.
Hello, my name is Jeff Wilson. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Manely Firm PC, based mainly out of Marietta, sometimes Atlanta.
Nice. Well, welcome in, everybody, and thanks for taking some time to share some knowledge with our listeners. So going into 2025, right, you have all of these resolutions, and you're like, this is how I'm going to change. And you always hear that age-old joke in family law sometimes is, hey, I lost, 220 pounds, in the new year. And that being a joke, but sometimes that is very realistic for a lot of our clients, and some things that we really focus on towards the end of the year and going into the new year is trying to resolve those cases so our clients have a new path forward. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel, or they've reached the light at the end of the tunnel. And so when you're going into the end of the year and then coming into the new year, what are some of the things that you all are working for and towards with your clients? And what are some of the things that they really face in that transition from the end of the year to the new year?
What I usually like to do when we're looking at the end of a year going into a new year, I like to touch base with all of my clients and ask them, what's one priority or what's one thing that you want to focus on in the new year, and how can we, as your trial team, support that effort? And I've had a number of clients come back and say, well, I would like to be a more effective co-parent. I would like to be a more present parent. I just want to hold myself more accountable. And so I work through that with my clients and see how I can support them.
Okay, so that's a fantastic answer, right? Because being a better co-parent, being a more effective co-parent is great for them, but it's also an amazing thing to do for their children. And so we always talk about that. And one of the things that we're focusing on this year is transformation, right? That was one of our stated goals in the firm, is one thing that we really want to focus on is transformation for our clients. And so when you're thinking through, hey, the clients come in and said, I want to be a better co-parent. I want to transform. I want to do better. What are some of the things that you all focus on in terms of, or what are some of the things that you do to help them do that?
I mean, one thing that I look at is a budget, because as you're leaving this 2-household, 2-budget plan, you're going to have to transform your life into a 1-budget plan, and how to make money go accordingly. This will be the first year you file taxes on your own. The first year you need to allocate for your children, how to know how to allocate child support you receive to behoove your children. And there's a lot of new things to uncover. And so setting those expectations and going through that budget is important to help transform them into this new single life.
Right. So I think, I love that, because being financially solvent, being comfortable reduces the level of stress you have and will help you be a better person for yourself and your children, right? Because that stress, money, obviously, stress. And so if you are, again, financially solvent, and you are comfortable where you're at, then you can be a better person for yourself and your kids. And so, yeah, that's an absolutely great point. I mean, a lot of people, especially when you get into a situation where you have couples who one was a stay-at-home spouse, right? That is, without a doubt, got to be one of the scariest things to think through, is because you've been dependent upon this person. And now all of a sudden you're going, I'm taking this huge leap to say, I'm not happy where I'm at in my life. I'm not happy in my marriage. I'm not going to let my dependency control where I'm at. And so I am going to take that step of filing for divorce, but I've got to figure out how to, one, support myself, and then two, support myself and children, and be financially solvent in that I'm mentally and psychologically healthy for myself and my children. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a great point, thinking through that. So anything else? I mean, I like to, I think about like community partners as well, right? Who do we have in the community that we can reach out to say, hey, listen, we've got a situation here where we have a divorce going on. This person needs help. Do we have a counselor? Do we have a co-parenting coordinator? Do we have a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, pediatrician, right? So thinking through those additional steps of not just within the four walls of our office or getting them from point A married to point B divorced, what can we do for them in between? So any thoughts? So speaking of financially solvent, I think I'm making a kind of a leap here, but in terms of creating future plans, in setting up an estate or thinking through how do I want to make sure I take care of my family in the future, what are some things that you focus on, Cherish, when you're transitioning into the new year and you have clients asking questions about resolutions that they have for their families?
Well, I think with our clients, as they are looking at closing out their divorce case, transformation is key. And I think we are fortunate enough to have a wonderful network of resources for them. Not only counselors, but financial advisors, people who can advise on all aspects of their new formed life. Definitely something that is top of mind is making sure that they have updated estate plans. And I know the word estate plan means, many things to many people, but really it's thinking about who is going to be helping you if you are sick or if you are disabled or if you pass away. So families with young children, who are the key players who are going to help with that? Do you want your soon-to-be ex-spouse to be the person to make all of your medical, financial, or decisions after you pass away? Most of our clients would likely say no, they don't want that. And even just out in the community, they don't want that. So it's imperative that they think about these things. But it's also liberating to think of as somebody else taking that role. It's scary, but now you know that you're moving on to the next stage of your life. And it's really important, and I think that is unique about our firm, is that the resources that we have available. Everybody here gets trained not only from a personal development perspective, but we bring all of that into our interactions with our clients. I like to say that we are emotionally intelligent in our interactions with client. We understand what works and what doesn't work, different types of communication style. So I think that we like to not only be the best family law attorney, but just in estate planning and probate through all cycles of life, but we do it in a very compassionate way. So just speaking about the transformation, and it's closing loops. There's always the loop in your head if you don't have your estate plan that, who's going to take care of my children if something happens? Mm-hmm. I know that one of the clients that I just had said that to me, and she's like, now I have peace of mind. It's done. It's closed. And I can just go on with my life. Mm-hmm. And then our potential clients who come to us, they're seeking that same distinction as well, too.
I think you're sort of striking at the, or you're hinging off of the idea that life begins at the divorce. Your new year doesn't start in January anymore. your new year starts on the anniversary of your divorce, at least for a while. And in that first year, you have to learn a lot of things. And going back to Emily's mention of the budget, there's a skill set budget too that I think people have to take inventory of. It's and I haven't collected this at the firm so much as just in personal experience that for younger people, there's a surprising number of people who only one party in the marriage knows how to write a paper check, because people don't write checks very often anymore.
Right.
All right.
I mean, I think people nowadays, I say people, the younger generation, the kids out there, they're not even teaching cursive anymore.
Right.
So they don't even know how to write in cursive on checks. And so that is striking to me to think about. So, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So it was exactly. So some of those ancient and fading skills, if you were not the person that did that in your marriage, you need to learn how to do it. One person in the marriage usually knows where the water shutoff is to the house, and right down the line, one person, kind of handles things. And I think that it's really incumbent upon people in that first year of their divorce or leading up to it. I mean, these things don't just happen overnight. Very rarely is it, boom, you're divorced. Usually, there's some lead up to this. But I think I would tell a person, if you don't have friends, make them, find them. Join a bowling league, join a church group, have
support groups or something,
Right.
Have people you can ask and be open with and say, look, my husband or my wife used to always taking care of this. And I think it's best if it's a co-ed group, by the way. But people are happy to help, but you just have to be forthright about, what I know how to start the lawnmower. But the daggone gas cap on the gas can is this federally mandated monstrosity that I can't get loose, And you have to have somebody to tell you, just unscrew it and throw it away. Just throw the thing away, and get help. Make friends.
What about the lid on the pickle jar? You should throw that lid away, or
you keep that.
Okay,
because you're going to drink the pickle juice. Come on,
yeah.
You got to keep the pickle jar.
Yeah, so. I swear I loosened it. I loosened it. That's an absolutely great thought. Thinking through support groups and finding people kind of in the same walk of life and going through similar issues who may be a few steps ahead of you, to look back and say, well, here's where, here's a stone that I tripped over, or here's where I took a misstep, and here's what you need to know as you come up my path. So yeah, that's a fantastic point. One of the things that I wanted to jump back to what you were talking about, Cherish, is a lot of times, this is kind of a buzzword or a buzz phrase for me, but I talk to a lot of people who talk about wanting to create generational wealth, right? And so when you're talking about creating generational wealth, whether that's thinking through what is this notion of, the idea of generational wealth and how is that impacted by my divorce, that's the one side of it. But the other side is whether or not you're going through divorce, or whether or not you're, coming in to set up an estate plan as a couple, as a married couple, thinking through, how do I develop a plan such that it creates generational wealth for my children and my grandchildren, right? And so I wanted to jump into that a little bit, because I know we can get into the feels a lot with family law, because there's a lot of emotion involved in that. And sometimes it can take kind of a negative spin, because there is a lot of negative thought when it comes to divorce. And we'll certainly discuss that. But thinking something like a positive resolution, in the new year is, how do I go and I set that up? And I know we do a lot of trust, but in your mind, what are some initial steps people can take to get there, or get down that path?
Definitely. I mean, you speak to a lot of the client consultations and the clients that we do have. Sometimes they are first generation immigrants coming from another country, or they are first generation successful entrepreneurs. And so they have a myriad of things. They have the business component, which is generating their wealth. And then they also have the aspect that they want to make sure that it translates to the next generation. And I think having a key team of advisors is key in our success in helping them establish that. So it might be financial advisors who've referred clients to us to say, okay, they need an estate plan, and then looking to the next generation, like we do in our firm, pretty much every day in our yearly meetings and our quarterly meetings, thinking about the vision that you have for your children and the future is critical in setting that up. And sometimes when I meet with my clients, it might just be, what do you want? What is the end goal of how you see this? You have this newfound wealth. If you are a first generation or you're a new successful entrepreneur, how do you want to pass it on? Mm-hmm. Do you want your children to be trust fund babies? Do you want to make sure that you're giving to your church or an organization that you feel very strongly about? Yeah. What does that look like from a real perspective? And the great thing is we not only think about it from a legal perspective, but really an operational, personal perspective, because each person's story is unique. And there are unique things that we need to do to customize in their estate plan to account for that. What one family values might be different from a different family.
I was just about, so I was going to, not to cut you off, but I was going to say it just along those lines, is it really depends on, like that, a lot of people's relationship with money, right? Like, what is your relationship with money? And that is impacted 100% culturally, experience, familially, right? So, and so thinking through that, I want you to, can you dive in a little bit more on that? Because looking at people's relationships with money can certainly impact the advice that you provide them on which way they should go in terms of setting up plans.
Yes. I mean, I think that each client is definitely unique. And so in listening, I think the great thing that what we do at our firm is really listen to them. We can pick up on cues based on all of our experience as to what their relationship with money might look like. If they are a fastidious saver and they are always saving, but they have a scarcity mindset, they might not want to be or have a team of advisors, including us, who are encouraging, crazy off the wall things like Bitcoin. Or if we see a generation of saving for the next generation, and, education is a key component to that. So all of those questions and asking our clients so that we can customize those estate plans. What I've seen a lot in family businesses is, the question of, does this family business end this generation, or do you want your children to continue the next generation? Mm-hmm. Some families are like, yes, I want it to continue on. Or some people are saying, oh, okay, I only want to get the income stream out of it. Mm-hmm. So we think of creative ways that we can create the estate plan to account for all of those things.
Right. And, that largely, or a lot of that in terms of passing on the business too, depends on, I think, what kind of expectations do you want to set up for your children, right? Do you want them to earn it, or do you want to give it to them, right? Mm-hmm. And so 100%. Thank you. So I wanted to loop you in on this, Jeff. I know, you're not on the legal side, but you're our chief financial officer. I'm sure you see a lot of people who have different relationships with money and how they handle it. Just kind of from that perspective, what are some things that you see in terms of people's relationships with money and how that impacts them and their cases?
Right. Absolutely. That's actually part of that same skill set inventory. As Cherish was talking, I was thinking about the opposite end of that spectrum. And that is the very young person, 18, 20 years old. They get married. They perhaps have never had a W-2 job, never. A few years later, they're divorced. So at that point, they have moved through those years where I would say the vast majority of people now have learned things about direct deposit and shearing off a little bit of money to go into a separate account and some approach to 401ks and stuff like that. Well, that person has effectively been in suspended animation sometimes for several years. And you actually do run into cases where one party actually feels that they've been participating in a business, and what they've really been participating in is that their spouse has been making a 1099 income for some period of time and having her or him do a certain amount of the work, probably not properly. So there's all kinds of bad starts. Let's put it that way. There's all sorts of bad starts and non-starts, kind of a failure to launch sort of situation. And that is the same exact scenario where I think getting into support groups, don't call them support groups. God, everybody hates that, but have a de facto support group, people that you can reach out to, not the same person every time, not your poor neighbor. Don't do that, but spread it around, and get opinions and find out that there's more than one way to do this stuff. And there's always somebody really, really, you want to talk about finances? I am so happy to do that. Another person, wants to talk about home maintenance. Find those people and reach out to them and learn those things about, the power of compounding interest and all those wonderful things, and the power of putting something away out of your check every week, even if it's so small. It can just be a decimal point, but just put something away each time where you can't see it, and that's how you catch up. But yes, it's a huge variety of circumstances,
Yeah, I'm an organizational nut. I have like 7 bank accounts, and when my check comes in, I've got them labeled like mortgage account, vacation account, school account, tax account, and I just funnel the money down to the accounts, and there they sit to be pulled out for something. So yes, and speaking, when I was younger, I burned through my one account, I burned through money, and I was so bad. I had such a bad relationship with money. It was horrible. And so it took me years to learn, okay, how am I going to better invest this, and how am I going to do things differently? And that really changed when I had a family, right? When suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, there are other people that depend on me. Like, I've got to really get my stuff together and think through this. And so I say that to say, I'm sure, our clients with children who are dependent upon them, or even thinking of it this way, even if you're going through a divorce and you're the working spouse, thinking, and we see, in every case is different, but seeing clients, you're like, gosh, I still love them. I still care about them. What are they going to do? How are they going to handle this? And you get all kinds of, like I said, emotions on the spectrum, across the spectrum of hate versus love versus, and so when you're thinking through that, and then you all, Emily and Courtney, when you all are talking to clients and you see, that kind of swinging arc of people on, different sides of this, what are some of the things or the conversations that you all are having regarding those emotions and how that is impacting their decision making? So,
it's funny that you mentioned me and Emily, because I'm thinking of a case that we recently worked on together.
No names.
No names.
No names. Absolutely not.
Reach for the bleep lever.
Yeah, no names.
So, Emily and I frequently had a conversation with a particular client who was very much ready to get divorced from her husband, but could not help but think about the potential consequences that the divorce would have, the impact that the process would have to his life, and just like the changes that would go on for their family. And
some people are just so self-sacrificial, right?
That's exactly it.
It's amazing to me, and God bless those people, because that's just an amazing place to be, right? You're in a place of divorce, but you're still thinking about the other person and the impact of the other person. It's so selfless. It's amazing.
Now, I mean, depending on who you ask, we did not feel that the opposing party deserved that from our client. But in any case, that is how she was. She was very much concerned with him, the impact that the process would have on him. And so we had to tailor our strategy. We had to tailor our conversations to that approach that she would take. And We had to counsel her through some pretty hard conversations, but I mean, yeah, that was just kind of the reality of what she was dealing with.
Just going on that note, what I've seen from all of the family law attorneys, which I think is great because I haven't seen it, just in the bar necessarily, but you're very thoughtful and non-judgmental in the way that you approach each situation. So even going back to our previous conversation of, sometimes you might be starting out and you might not have squirreled away, the different 7 bank accounts like Billy. But
look, that took me decades.
Yeah,
okay,
no,
that wasn't
right,
like a
right.
Discipline and practice.
There was a failure to launch, so to speak, from Jeff. It took a while to, like Houston. We have a problem. Right?
And it's really only 7 accounts the government knows about.
This is being recorded.
The government is listening.
But I think that when our clients come to us, both in estate planning and family law, they're coming to us at one of their most vulnerable times. And the skill set that I know that all of the lawyers that we have at our firm is there is no judgment, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are like Billy, and having the 7 accounts, or you are the newly divorced person who needs a little bit of coaching.
You need one account.
Yeah, to have one account.
Yeah.
There is no judgment with that. And I think that there's the resources that we provide to our clients, whether it's in our network or, just in our communities or something that we learn that is so helpful to meet them where they're at. And a lot of firms don't do that. They view a lot of, it as a transactional. And just going back to the transformation, that's how we try to transform our clients. It's deep in our heart to do that on a daily and purposeful basis. But then it comes through with our operations and our procedures and our daily, stand-up calls. So that is something that I want our listeners to know is that we will meet you where you're at. So if you are a first-generation immigrant who has been very successful in their business and they need to do estate planning. So it's just important to let clients know that we're meeting them where they're at.
Right. So we're talking about New Year's resolutions. We're talking about, moving from the old year to the new year. And a lot of people, and I recently heard this, but it's like the second Friday of January is like, that's when people stop with their New Year's resolution.
Yes,
I can't remember.
yes.
There's like a
So
term
true.
of art for that day.
Yeah.
Quitter's Day, right. So the second Friday of January is known as Quitter's Day because that's like on average when people stop with their New Year's resolutions, right?
It's brand new information.
Yeah, I know. I just heard it like a week or two ago, and I was like, all right, that kind of makes sense. But think, divorces don't stop or start that fast, right? And making these decisions take a lot of time and a lot of energy in terms of, mental focus and psychological focus and physical focus, really, because it takes such a toll on people. But a lot of the things that we do is try to shoulder that burden for clients when they're going through that. And so we have developed a thoughtful team, as Cherish, you have said, in terms of working through the different aspects of that and how do we go about shouldering that burden and helping clients through that. I just, for a second, want to hear from you all. What is one thing that you all think that you do well or that you want to do well for clients as they shift from the old year into the new year? What are some things that clients or potential clients could be able to rely on as they walk through our doors to know, here's what we are looking to do to help you as you transition from the old year to the new?
I can jump in on this. I do a lot of listening. It is not my job, nor am I here to force thoughts or onto you and say, this is what you're going to do now. I want to make sure that I can guide you through a path based on what you are looking for. If you are looking to get a divorce and X, Y, Z, then I can help you down that path, not to tell you, well, you need A, B, C, and that's the way it's going to be. It's not going to work out. So making sure you're really listening and cueing into what people want.
I think in that vein, I let my clients know that I wear many hats. I'm not just their attorney. I can also be somebody that they can rely on when they're just having a particularly bad day and they just need to rant about it. We don't have to have the conversation of, okay, well, this is the strategy because you're having this off day. If you just want to call me and rant about what a tough process this is, because I recognize that it is a tough process for you, I am here to listen to you. I am, the shoulder that you can cry on. You can, bend my ear, and I will be there for you.
I think from an estate planning perspective, what we do well as a department in the firm is really getting everything organized. And then organized so that it alleviates the stress for whoever is left. So if somebody passes away, we have systems and processes and where we meet with the next generation. So we will say, okay, we will meet with your successor trustees and your agents so that they know that they can call us when something happens. So if, God forbid, mom's in the hospital, they can call us for their advanced health care directive so that there is continuity of care. So that if something happens, they know that all they have to do is call us. It's one number, and they know what we look like, what we sound like, and that we really are trying to do what's in their best interest. And that gives our clients peace of mind. They know that, their son out in New Jersey knows who we are, that if mom gets sick here in Atlanta, Georgia, that if he doesn't know who else to call, he'll call us. And we have the documents and we have the things in place.
I think when clients leave us, if we can leave them with a sense of, one, be circumspect, look around, learn, but also to not have a sense of finality. When the divorce is final, that's really not the end. That's actually the beginning. And I think that sometimes, and I think we give people a pretty good nudge in that direction, this is the beginning and it's not final. And you know what? You might actually get divorced again someday. I do use the example. I won't use names, but I do know people who it took them 3 times. And I'm glad that they took those 3 times because it was in that third time, that third marriage, that they found that happiness that lasted and still lasts to this day, 25 years perhaps, But if they had taken the approach that, well, there's life before divorce and there's life after divorce, and that's it, that none of that would have ever happened. They had that sense of life and going forward. And I don't think that we want people to just shut the door with us one time and say, well, that's over with. We're always there, for the next step, whether it's trust, estate planning. I almost used the phrase God forbid, but you know what is not God forbid? Sometimes it's just the way it goes that sometimes you're going to do another divorce. But I don't think people should necessarily be afraid of that if it's necessary.
Right. I think along those lines, helping clients remain open and vulnerable, because a lot of times when they're going through this process, after they shut down and they close up and they don't let anybody in, which makes it harder for them to find their non-support groups. Community. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
But helping clients to remain vulnerable and open to new opportunities and new experiences as opposed to shutting down. One of the things that I really want to focus on and help clients with is, I'm a partner and a managing attorney with the firm, and so I manage a number of attorneys, but really trying to help clients find the right fit of the attorney that they're going to work with. because it's very important that the person that you're working with through this process, that you trust that person, that you have a good, healthy working relationship with that person, because a lot of the conversations that you're going to have with your attorney are going to need you to be open and vulnerable and honest if you want good quality legal services rendered, because we need to know everything. We need to know the dark secrets. We need to know the things that could come up so we can properly prepare for them. And as we've said, there is no judgment. I've been doing this for a long time. I've heard a lot of things, and there's probably not a lot of things that anybody could say to me at this point that would shock me enough to impact any sort of thought or care that I have for my client or my potential client or you that you're sitting out there and listening to this. It's a judgment-free zone. And so, one of the things, or one of my goals in this new year, is to help put clients and match them with the right attorney and who they're going to be able to work with best. So, I want to, wrap up with any last comments. Looking ahead, because I know a lot of people are planners. Looking ahead, when people are jumping into the new year, they're coming out of Christmas break, right? So they're coming out of a vacation of sorts, and there's a lot of custody exchanges during that. And so those are some issues that we haven't really gotten into, which we can talk about now. But looking ahead, thinking through, okay, we're in a new year. Spring break is coming up. Summer is coming up. What am I going to do for vacation? I may be divorced at that point. I may not be divorced at that point. What am I going to do with my kids? What am I going to do for myself? What are some things that you all are looking at and helping clients work through regarding that?
So I am working for any clients that do not have any sort of court order or agreement in place. I am looking at getting that in place pretty much by the end of this week, because I think winter break, whichever break comes up in February.
Winter break. Yeah,
okay.
it's Christmas break,
right,
and then winter break, and then mid-March break. And
in New Jersey, we didn't have these breaks.
I mean, we have a lot of breaks. I mean, we've almost basically gone a full-time, a year-round school year with a lot of breaks. And the summer's been shortened a lot, so yeah.
Yeah, I need to get used to this for when my two kids.
Summer used to be like 5 months long, right? We would get out in like April and go back in September or something like that. That's a little exaggeration, but it was a lot more than 7.5, 8 weeks, right?
Right. No, definitely.
Yeah. So I am looking to help my clients put a plan in place, and it is worth it to go the extra mile to make sure that plan is written down in the form of a court order. So, or at least have something where there's an email that says, this is the plan that we are doing, something that is enforceable per se. But particularly, I'm looking to get an agreement in place, preferably a court order that says who has the child at what time, on what day, for what break.
Now, let me throw a wrench into this. When you file a divorce case, there's an important document that goes into place. That is a standing order. So can one of you kind of explain what is a standing order and what is a very important piece of information that's usually in that standing order about kids and traveling with kids?
Standing order is essentially an order automatically issued when you file your divorce with the county. That provision is going to be related to...
Or a custody matter.
Any domestic relations matter.
Right.
And it's going to be that you cannot remove the children from the state of Georgia. And every county is a little different. Some say without the permission of the court. Some say without the permission of both parties. Some say something else that I can't think of right now. But you need to make sure that you're looking at your standing order.
But they say something about travel and children. And so, yeah.
And so you're planning these vacations. Oh, we were supposed to go to Montana in October. What's going to happen now? And you've got to think ahead to make sure that you've planned accordingly such that you can take that trip or revamp your plans to do something else.
Yeah. So with that in mind, thinking through, okay, you've got somebody that comes in, they file in January, January, February. They've got children, spring break, summer's coming up. You're thinking, okay, we need to have a conversation about, do you have plans for spring break? Do you have plans for the summer? let's have a conversation about that. How do you address that with the clients and with the court? You started on that, Courtney, but can you delve into that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can actually. I'm literally working through that issue with a client right now. I have a client who is in Maryland, and the opposing party and the child live here in Georgia. And so the plan prior to us filing was that child would go visit him in Maryland for child's winter break. And now that we filed, there's a standing order in place that says that, without the consent of the other party, child stays here in Georgia. And so right now we are working, thankfully, on the other side, opposing party is represented. So we're currently working with that opposing attorney to work out an agreement that we can file with the court. And so client will ultimately get his parenting time that the parties had previously agreed to. Now it's not all the time where you have a parent who is willing to work with you on making sure that you get your parenting time, if that means entering into an agreement so that you don't offend a standing order. And so it might be a matter of looking at the timeline for getting a temporary hearing in place, so that we can make sure that you don't have any uninterrupted parenting time, particularly for the spring break, school breaks.
Right. And how long does it, on average, because it's different in every county, but how long does it usually take, just for people who are listening, how long does it usually take to get a temporary hearing?
I would say about a month is my experience so far in this year, about a month and a half. So that's why it is important for us to be reaching out to the courts right now.
Right. So client comes to you and says, I'm supposed to take a vacation next week. That is going to be very difficult to resolve unless you can get it by agreement, because you're likely not going to be able to get in front of a judge to make a decision on that. And so thinking ahead with these things, very, very important.
I have a question related to that, to travel, travel planning in the divorce phase. Is it necessary for, especially when sole custody has been awarded, does a child's passport need to be collected and amended? Is the parentage listed in a passport and a child's passport?
I don't believe so. But one issue, which is a great point, is if a passport expires or if you don't have a passport, you need to work out how that's going to be handled. Mm-hmm. There needs to be some language in a parenting plan, or there is a federal regulation and in case law in Georgia that sets out that one parent, if ordered by the court, one parent can unilaterally obtain a passport if the other parent refuses to cooperate. And so if you are looking to do international travel and you need a passport and the other side's not cooperating, you can go to court and seek an order giving you that parent unilateral authority to obtain a passport, which passport office typically requires both parents or parent and a guardian, or an order from the court that one parent can obtain a passport. And then there's one other exception, I think, is if there's only one parent. And so if you have that order and you walk into a passport office, they'll allow you to obtain a passport unilaterally. So
okay. So I think it's fair to just say, if you're in that situation, make sure you know where your kids' passports are and what they allow, and address it somehow with your attorney.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so everybody here knows this, but we do international family law, and so we deal with a lot of passport issues. And so, yes, absolutely. If you file for divorce, or before you file for divorce, please know what's going on with your children's or your child's passport, know where it's at. A lot of the times we're filing emergency orders, asking for passports to be collected, asking for those to be held by the court by somebody who, has some skin in the game besides the parties. So a court, an attorney, a guardian ad litem, somebody to hold those passports to make sure that parents can't leave with the children. So absolutely. So in terms of the vacation, so there's the standing order, there's the timing of all of that. And then all of a sudden now, you get past spring break, you're getting into summer, and you have multiple weeks. Maybe when you're talking about dividing summer, and what does that look like when you're having those conversations, what are some of the ways in which summers can be divided? How can that be handled? What is some of your advice to clients in terms of looking at summer and what that division of time with the children looks like?
I think primarily it's going to depend, one, on your relationship with the other co-parent, and two, on your relationship with the child. So are you going to do every other week, or are you going to continue on the plan that you've been on since January? Are you going to split summer such that one of you parent has June and the other has July? Primarily, does anybody have vacations planned from prior to when this process even began, such that you can accommodate that this year and then change it up for the following years moving forward? So really, it's on a case-by-case basis and depending on what you are looking for.
I would go on to say that in terms of dividing up summer break, it depends on where parents are located. Because I'm thinking back to the client that I have who is in Maryland. And so typically you're not going to see, every other week in that type of situation. You're looking at the parent who might not reside close by or resides in a different state, different country. They're going to get a few weeks consecutive of parenting time.
Right, their parenting time looks a lot different than than the parents that live down the street or across town from each other.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And then I've even seen very special cases where a parent who lives far, far away internationally, they get the majority of the summer. So I would say that's a factor that's pretty important.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Any last thoughts from anybody?
I would just say something I hear a lot of recently, both in my clients and some personal experience, is that it's a lonely process to go through divorce, and that you're now separated from this person you poured your heart and soul into. How do you combat that? And so, one, those support groups are important, but there's also more kind of at-home things you can do. You can get an emotional support animal. You can get your favorite TV show and sit down with a cup of wine. Something that brings you joy and kind of pulls you out of this. It's not a lonely process. It's a step forward into your future, and think of the happiness and the joy you have moving forward instead of looking back.
Yeah, something to look forward to. Yeah. So, all right, speaking of looking forward, I'm going to make it a little personal here. We've been talking about, vacations and summers and things like that. Is there anything y'all are looking forward to this summer?
I am looking forward to celebrating my twins' first birthday.
Yay! That's awesome.
It
yeah.
is. And they have a June birthday, so it'll be right smack dab in the middle of summer. I'm so excited for Georgia weather.
Yeah. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You made it to 1 year. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh. Many more years to come.
Yeah, you won parenting. Way to go. That's what I said. When we got it to 1 year, I was like, we did it.
We are great.
We survived.
Cherish.
My daughter, who is a senior, will be graduating.
No,
so
congratulations.
She'll be going off to college.
Congratulations.
So it's bittersweet, but it'll be fun picking out all of the college dorm supplies.
Oh, it's so much fun. I miss that.
Yes.
I am headed down to the new Universal Park that opens in May.
Ooh.
So I'm very excited for that. The new
Jealous.
Harry
Very
Potter
nice.
ride.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yes. Very nice. Jeff?
Yeah, my daughter is a L2 second year law student, and as she concludes her second year this spring, we hope to go out and visit her, and we feel that third year, she's a shoe-in now. She's gonna make it.
yes,
She's gonna.
Yeah, once you get through 2 years, you're like downhill.
You're good. Yeah.
Right.
You've
You're
made it,
downright.
essentially.
So now we feel like it's safe to visit her out on the West Coast,
yeah.
and we won't screw anything up.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm just family vacations. You get so busy throughout the year on the front and the back end of summer with everything going on. So being able to maybe slow down for a week or two and spend time with my family. So very much looking forward to that. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to the listeners for joining us. Please follow our podcast and stay engaged. And we look forward to talking to you next time. This is the Manely Firm, PC, and you can find out more about us at www.allfamilylaw.com. Have a great day.